Hello, everybody. We will get started just momentarily as everybody starts filtering in. Um, I hope everybody is safe and at home, warm and comfortable. The last 48 hours has been, I'm sure, a bit unusual and trying for many of us. I just spent the last 2 hours shoveling and still have much more to go. And I welcome you to our second digital delivery stakeholder group meeting. Um, the first one we had, our inaugural meeting, was in October. And as many of you know, that was also during the timeline that we were going through national budget negotiations. And so us at FHWA were not able to participate and attend. We thank Roger and the NIBS staff for successfully executing that inaugural meeting and at least setting the stage for where we were at nationally as we start to pick up activities, etc., moving forward. We will be using the chat functions within the Zoom meeting to correspond. You can also raise your hand if you want to contribute verbally, and then we will work to bring you in through the Zoom audio into the dialogue. Um, we do have our standard disclaimer, Roger, that you had advanced to. You can go ahead and advance to that, and just basically saying that these are not official opinions of the U.S. government or federal highway, that they are the individuals that are making the statements, and that we don't endorse products or manufacturers. And so oftentimes, if anything has shown in a presentation or named by name, it's just because of the essential objection of the presentation, the information being provided, and that it doesn't reflect a preference, approval, or endorsement. Next slide, Roger. So I'm Matt Corrigan. I'm with Federal Highway Administration. I'm in our Office of R&D on the Infrastructure Analysis and Construction team. The rest of the National Institute for Building Science team is also with us, Roger, Rackley, and Mona. They help with a lot of the logistics. They've got our contract support for this effort. I am still actively looking for a state DOT co-chair to help with, managing not logistics, but just like keeping high level engagement with the community and where the needs are and things like that. We hope to fill that here quickly from our membership. And again, thanks to the NIB staff for helping us execute the meetings and helping us with managing logistics and day-to-day items. Next slide, Roger. And then we do have DDSG membership. That is a broad collection of state DOT members as well as some targeted industry associations that you see here. They represent a lot of levels of maturity across the associations in the states with regards to their digital delivery journey, from those that are quite far along to those that are just getting started and everything in between, I would dare say. And our industry representatives were assigned by their association with regards to their involvement within the association at a national level to represent those association and their members in official capacity. We certainly are very happy to have those that have agreed and volunteered to participate as members. Um, we know that everybody's very busy, and this carving out extra time for another initiative is also quite difficult. Um, but we do have this membership here. You can find that on our website, and we will get to that momentarily. We do have some resources that we're going to share, and I'm kind of going to cover a few of these things briefly. Um, for those of you that might not have been able to participate in our previous meetings, just so that we can give everybody kind of a baseline on where to find things, but not spend a lot of time like we have done going over the details of each of these items like we did earlier in previous meetings. Um, I will quickly use this list just to go down through and do a roll call of the membership. Just for roll call purposes for today's meeting, we'll start from the top and work our way down in no order of preference other than alphabetical. And recognizing that some people do have conflicts and can't accommodate every single meeting. But Cassidy, believe she had a conflict today. And Rick, similarly. And there's Katie. Katie, you're on, right?
Good to see you.
Hi, Katie. Welcome. Cindy, representing ARPA. Will Holmes, Kentucky.
Good afternoon.
I will. Ian with Billing Smart. No Ian. Carrie, Massachusetts. I hope everybody's safe if they're not able to attend. Jennifer Lloyd, Tennessee DOT.
I'm here. Hello.
Hi, Jennifer. Welcome. Kevin with H2. And Alan Melly,
I
Pennsylvania DOT.
am here, Matt.
Hi, Alan.
How's
Welcome
it going?
again. I hope you're not digging out too much.
Oh no, that's what you have kids for.
Devin with Caltrans. And Jonathan Porter.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Hi, Jonathan. Charlie Purcell, Iowa. Dan Ranke, ACEC. Tricia Stefanski, Minnesota.
I am here. Hi,
Hi,
Matt. Thanks.
Tricia. Yeah, welcome back. Jacob, Texas.
Good morning, y'all. I'm here.
Hi, Jacob. Welcome back. And I have a note that Director Wayfrick from Michigan will be attending, but he's a few minutes late. So glad he can carve out some time. I'm sure he's dealing with a lot of events in his state as well right now. Um, let's see, Roger, I think this is where we had the Zoom poll, correct? We want to know who you are that's joining us today.
Yeah. And then, Matt, just to let you know, I've been chatting with Carrie, who's trying to join, so she should be here any minute.
Okay, very good. So just briefly, we like to have an idea of who's attending and how well our outreach is making it across the spectrum of digital delivery within the transportation arena. So if you could respond to the poll, that would be helpful to us.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what everyone's view is of this poll, but currently we have 73% people participated so far. That's
Okay.
rapidly going up. It would be great if we could get 100, but past 85, 90%, that's probably the goal there.
Thanks, Reckley.
Do you see the results, Rackley? I don't know where the results actually show up. We're trying to use this Zoom poll for the first time.
I will take a screenshot of the results just in case it doesn't output it in a correct fashion. But when I end the poll, I imagine it will output something useful. We'll give it another, few seconds and then.
All right.
Yeah, we're
I
at
appreciate
85%, and I will end the poll.
Thank you, Rackley. 85% is pretty good. We have, it looks like 140 plus attendees, so that's good. Considering what's going on outside,
Are you
that
able to
means
see
that
these results? It says it's
we
sharing.
are. I can see them, yes.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
I will drop these in the
60%
mural.
DOT. Yeah, thank you. Roger, next slide.
Sorry. Yeah. Just there we go.
Yeah, and just as a reminder, we established the digital delivery stakeholder group really as a collaborative initiative where we want to coordinate and integrate a lot of what's going on nationally with digital delivery in order to keep the dialogue open and for us to understand where everybody's state of practice is or state of maturity, level of maturity, if you will. The baseline has kind of been established with a national BIM for infrastructure roadmap that we have published, and we will be revisiting that later on and in upcoming meetings. Um, but we really wanted to make sure that we had a good understanding of all these efforts in a collaborative way, so that we could make sure that there wasn't a lot of duplication of efforts or to understand where the needs were, any gaps or, urgent items that needed to be overcome in order to keep digital delivery moving forward and successful. And just a reminder that it is very much intended to be an open group and open dialogue across the community. And so we'll continue to get information out as quickly as we can through our communication channels and our newly up and posted website, as well as other emails and meetings, and make the meetings and the recordings available to the public as well. Because we really do want to make sure that everybody's kind of getting up to speed or helping for us to understand where the industry is at and where the needs are. Next slide, Roger. This was our session one. We did break in our all virtual meeting into three smaller chunks of 3 hour events. So three-hour events across 3 days. The first one was last Thursday afternoon. This is just the agenda. A quick recap of that agenda. Again, we did have it recording just like this meeting. We have recorded. We'll be making those resources and recordings available as well. And then for today, we have had to be a bit dynamic because of the weather and people's availability. So we did have to make some adjustments here on the fly. This is the latest and greatest of what we have. Some of the items that we had originally anticipated hitting today, we will be doing at our next one on Wednesday afternoon. But nonetheless, we still have, I think, some very good topics to discuss and present here about various initiatives that are going on at a national level. We expect that we will hear quite often moving forward from some of the larger relevant projects, particularly the transportation pulled funds that are active. The two large active ones being BIM for structures, BIM for bridges, and BIM for infrastructure. And then there are others that will be coming online. We have a few of those being discussed today as well. And then we do have our advanced digital construction management systems grant projects that are underway. We can't really say too much more about the future of ADCMS until we have some additional guidance at the national level about moving forward, but there are projects that have been awarded and have been started, and the goal for those projects was really to be applicable at a national level where they could help not only advance and move forward, but could be used and leveraged by a lot of different agencies across the country as well. So we're going to tap into those expertise and those efforts moving forward with a few of the ADCMS project updates. We have a few of those today, as well as we'll have more in future meetings as well. And then this is our revised agenda for the Wednesday afternoon time session. We will have some more updates from the Transportation Pooled Fund studies and get some idea about how we can help them with their deliverables and their progress and provide them any resources or feedback that they might need. And we'll also get an additional ADCMS project update from one of the agencies that got one of the first round of awards for their projects. So again, thanks everybody for being flexible and dynamic, given everything that's going on nationally. Appreciate that. And briefly, just some of the activities to date and to mention, the upcoming schedule of efforts. We did, have our inaugural meeting in person. That was part of IHEAP in October. This is our second set of meetings that we have scheduled here virtually. The next meeting will be another hybrid in-person and virtual. All of our meetings will have virtual components to be able to engage the broad perspective of the transportation industry. But every other one is going to be virtual only for everybody. But then the ones in between those, or every other one in between, we expect to try to have an in-person grouping of the DDSG membership, as well as potentially piggyback onto another national effort, whether it be at IHEAP or for the one in March, the GIST conference held by AASHTO annually, in order to leverage our ability to coordinate and engage other parts of the transportation sector with regards to digital delivery and leverage their venue. If you go to our recently developed public website, which you do see right there, listed in the middle of the page is nibs.org solutions, Federal Highway Administration digital delivery. You can also just do a quick search online, digital delivery stakeholder group hub or DDSG hub. If you include the hub as one of the terms, usually you can get to it pretty quickly. I found in my experience, instead of memorizing the website, don't know, Rackley, if potentially you might be able to paste that website into the chat for everybody for convenience. But again, if you just do a search of DDSG hub in your webinar browser, you should be able to find it very quickly and it'll come up. The third meeting with GIST will be the afternoon of the 19th, a half day, and the morning of the 20th, a half day. We will have additional meetings coming up in 2026 that we're coordinating with the membership and trying to understand and determine where other potential venues might be that we could leverage and or items to avoid because it would be a conflict. And we do have a mechanism to do that through our mural board, which we will get to a little bit further on as well, because we're kind of hoping to crowdsource that information or leverage your access to what items you attend in different meetings at a national level that we might need to be aware of for planning purposes. So we appreciate anybody that can help us crowdsource that information as well. Next slide, Roger. And I'm not going to dwell on this too much because we've covered this quite in depth in the last couple of meetings, but we do have a lot of areas that we're trying to cover. Digital delivery is a very much a broad term. We do have a charter for the group that you can find at the DDSG hub. There's the direct website link at the bottom that we can get into the chat as well. But if you go to the DDSG hub, you will find that link and resource there as well. It really lays out all of these items in detail and how we plan to operate. We do anticipate this being a long-term effort and initiative in order to, again, foster that collaboration and promote the knowledge sharing, understand the needs and try to address those to the extent that we can. And optimize our investments in digital delivery moving forward. I encourage you to go to the DDSG hub and digest the resources there, including the charter for a lot of this information and details to understand kind of what our goals are and why we've been put together moving forward. And certainly you can reach out to myself and or Roger and the rest of the NIBS staff if you have any questions or if you have any trouble locating any of these resources, and we will make sure that we get that information to you. All of our meetings will be listed at the DDSG hub as far as registering for those events, both virtual and in person. So in fact, for the next meeting at GIST in March, there are two different sets of links for registering. If you're just going to be virtual, there's one set there, and there's another set that if you're going to be attending in person or being, a part of the GIST meeting and staying later and going to participate with us on site, there's another separate set of registration links at the DDSG hub. Next, Roger. Yeah, and just again, the DDSG hub and the website Roger posted in the chat for you to access. And again, if you just search DDSG hub, usually it comes up pretty quickly as well. Thanks, Roger. We went into some detail at the last meeting last week and the resources and navigating. We are continuing to work on some of the smaller subtleties. Sometimes when you press a link, it goes to the right area, but it doesn't always populate the information and you got to hit a second item, but we're still working on those, but you can get to all the information just by clicking on the titles in each of the section. We do have, again, with our intent to have is open and broad engagement and provide feedback to us, we have set up a mural board at the website, and that will continue to be up. It's not just during the meeting. So if you have an idea or something pops into your mind after this meeting and you're like, oh man, I really should have brought that up during the meeting, or want people to know of what's going on, you can still go into the mural and post a sticky note and help us. We do have some of the meeting content populated in there with the agenda, so you can provide feedback on specific aspects of the agenda or presentations there as well. I will let's see, Rackley, do you want to step people, I guess, similar to we did last time through the mural, just kind of coming in and following you and turning off their pointers so it's easier for people to navigate and those kind of details and just kind of walk through the mural site briefly for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So I've pasted a link into the chat that will bring you to our mural. Like what Matt said, this is our sort of collaborative repository for things that are happening in this meeting and then other things in the future. We're hoping to use this to collaborate with each and every one of you in a new and interesting way, very visual. As we can see, this section of the mural here is the result of our very first meeting. We have a lot of really nice comments from a lot of different people. It was a great success. It was really nice to get, feedback from people in a way like this, where it's not just in a chat that we have to go dig up later and everything. It's just all here. So that's really neat. So for today's meeting, we can see here on our splash page, we have a copy of our agenda. We have a link to the FHWA DDSG website. This link right here, this will subscribe you to updates for the DDSG. If you want to click to this, it will bring you to a short form that you can fill out. I've already pasted in the results of our attendance poll. I will collect any links that may be relative to our presentation today. I will paste them in here so they can be available to you much later, just like I did for our previous meeting.
Hey,
Right. So if you, yes.
Are you going to cover following and and cursor management? Yeah.
Right. So I will briefly do this. I can summon who's ever here. So important details for this mural. If you haven't already clicked on the link in the chat, please do so. You can follow other people in this, so it's a lot easier to see what somebody's talking about. So details for this. Very important thing, in the very bottom of your screen, mouse over your logo, select it, and then deselect broadcast my cursor. With everybody's cursor flying around, it gets very difficult to read something or see something because everybody is, their little icon is fluttering about. So it'd be good to disable that. Mine is on just so that I can show you where everything is. The major way we will be communicating on this is via sticky note. It's very easy to do so. Be careful when you double click, it will create a sticky note and you can type whatever you want inside of it. Hello. Oh, we're having people move things. I need to lock all this stuff. I meant to do so. Lock. Okay. Right. So these sticky notes, they will be how we communicate via Mural for all of you. If you want to, you can also sign it with your name. It's not necessary. If you want to leave an anonymous comment, that's also acceptable. We would rather have your collaboration than not. So do feel free to sign your name, your full first name, last name. This very first box here, this is for general meeting comments. Positive feedback, constructive feedback, unanswered questions, ideas. Feel free to leave any sort of comment here at all. I would challenge each and every one of you to leave at least one sticky note on this board, either in this general meeting comments section or down below where we have stuff that's going on for like the Bridge Pool Fund stuff we'll be talking about later, or ADCMS projects for Washington State or Oklahoma. As those presentations are going on, if you have comments, questions, or concerns, please, double click here, have a sticky note, type out your thing, and you can sign it if you want to or not. That would be very appreciated. The chat is also fine. If you post a question or an idea or something in chat, I will do my best to grab it and put it in a sticky note on here. But it's much preferable if you all get comfortable with Mural and using it, because this will be a recurring thing. We will keep using this throughout our other meetings and other events. So yes, that pretty much covers it as far as Mural is concerned. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Rackley, could you repost the link one more time? Some
Yes.
people that came in late didn't have access. And then if you could also cover one more time how to turn off your pointer.
Absolutely. So I will post the link really quick here once again. Right. And turning off the cursor, in the very bottom of your screen on Mural is a sort of bar of everybody who is currently viewing this mural. If you mouse over your logo, it should be the one on the farthest left. That should be you, I believe. If you mouse over that, and then there will be a option, broadcast my cursor. If you click on that to deselect it, it will turn your cursor off.
Yep. Thank you.
So now I would release all of you from following me now.
Yeah, you can also follow other people if there's somebody in there, that you're interested in. We do encourage you to provide, your name and who you are. Certainly you can remain anonymous if you choose to, but it helps us to kind of understand perspectives and, where the comments are coming from within the industry. If you can provide your name and contact as well when you come in. But we're going to continue to use this as a mechanism to gather feedback and information and to help us on identifying, kind of state of practice and areas of importance, et cetera, and to help us coordinate future meetings and activities as well as agenda topics as well. So.
And I would say, don't worry. The things we put in there are locked. You can't really mess anything up. So, and if you create a note you don't want, you can delete it just by going on it and hitting delete. And if you do anything like zoom in, zoom out, move, you'll stop following the person you were following. So if you want to follow them again, you just have to go back and highlight their name and then hit follow, and then you'll be tagged back up with them. These
Yeah.
things I learned the hard way.
Yeah. And you can, like, for example, with that screen there with the 4 quadrants that we're viewing, they're also color coded. So you can change the color of your sticky to match up, but if you don't do that and it's in the right quadrant, we'll figure it out. But you do have the ability to change the color of the sticky to kind of match the color scheme for those quadrants as well.
If you want to move it, you click on the move. When you right click, you get this little menu, and that gives you control over your note.
Oh, somebody has said at least one participant indicates that their IT has blocked access to Mural. Unfortunately, that's not something we can deal with. That's something that you'll have to speak to your IT department about. I'm not sure why it would be blocked. It might just be an automatic filtering thing.
Yeah. And we'll try to engage. Our intent is to engage through a lot of different mechanisms. So, particularly during the meeting, if you want to continue to use the Zoom chat, and you can always, reach out to myself directly through email mechanisms as well. So that's briefly kind of where we're at with the stakeholder group activities. We do have our first item to get some new information that not many people have heard of yet, and so we're happy to have Jim from Iowa give us an update on some of the new pooled fund activities.
Thank you very much. Let me get this set up real quick. Share screen. There we go. Can you guys see the presenter screen?
Yes, we can.
Here, a second. I didn't turn on my camera. I'm not sure how to do that now. Ah, there it is. Perfect. Well, thank you, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and speaking to you all. I'm going to cover, first of all, I'm going to cover some highlights on what we are doing with the BIM for Bridge pooled fund deliverables that were delivered in the first phase and how we plan to use them and some activities going forward. Um, we requested a change in the agenda a little bit because we really believe in collaboration between the BIM for Bridge pooled fund and the BIM for infrastructure. And I'm glad Digital Delivery Stakeholder Group was willing to accept that. I won't take too long. If anyone has any questions, my contact information's there. You can reach out to me after this or ask questions. Since the agenda was rearranged, I said, well, I can cover 10 minutes in some of our initiatives and some of the new pooled funds and activities that we're looking at completing. There we go. The first is this IFC validation and software certification program. This is a pooled fund we started or proposed about a year and a half ago. We've closed out the solicitation. If states still want to participate, the more the merrier. The goal of this, so we have IFC. We've created a 4.3 deliverable. It's been piloted by a couple states. We identified based on the first BIM week we had how do you specify IFC? And this helps address some of that. So it's going to create a certification and a validation process. So if we have an IFC model, how do software vendors view it? That's where software certification comes in. And then if we're asking a consultant to deliver a IFC model, how do we know it's validated? And that's where the certificates come in. And so between the two of those, that's kind of that deliverable. During the first meeting, we had talked about, I heard discussions on how do we know stuff is secure and safe. Well, that's part of what this is working on, creating a certification where you don't have to be online, creating a report out of that certification or the file validation and how it's going to be used in the future. One of the key, by the end of the day, all the participating states and the ones that are looking to participate, and there's a few more, we have hard commitments from 13 states in the FHWA. There's about five or six more states that are looking at participating. Minnesota, Montana, Arizona, Florida, Illinois, and North Carolina are still working on getting in that. I think we'll probably end up with about 17, 18 states that are participating in this pooled fund. So the first phase is going to be a discovery phase. There's been some changes at BSI, and this is really going to identify exactly what we need and how we need it. And it's going to align with what we've done in the BIM pooled fund. So that design and construction exchange that we developed in the first phase is how do we ensure that use case and the validation goes with that. That's kind of the highlight. And I guarantee by the end of the day, there will be a poll in all the participating states, Outlook emails, looking to get this kickoff meeting scheduled and get this work going. I think it's a very important effort. The response has been really good, and we need to get moving on it.
Jim, are you
Yes.
still entertaining additional states to join?
Absolutely. The more the merrier.
Excellent. Yeah.
One of the other things I do want to mention on this is we're going to look at taking the funds that we get from this, go to BIM for the Info Domain Steering Committee and see if we can leverage this funds and see if we can get some other countries to participate in this. This is an important effort. I guarantee some other countries will have the same challenges we have with the 4.3 implementation. So I think this is a great opportunity to move the needle, nationally, but also help get some work accomplished at the international level.
Jim,
Ian,
do you know, at least maybe from your perspective on your DOT side, like if there's a state that is listening in here and this is the first time they're aware of this particular pooled fund and want to inquire about participating, who would they contact within their state in order to kind of move that forward?
They can contact me to start. If they need to contact within their state, we can help them out there. Kyle Clute has been very helpful in helping get this stand up. He deals with the finances. He's with our Research and Analytics Bureau. He knows all the other research members out there that work for all the other states. So if there's a state that's listening that I haven't solicited from, I have reached out to all the BIM for Bridge and BIM for Infrastructure pooled fund states, and so all of them should have received multiple emails from me, mass emails, individual emails. But like I said, sometimes that stuff slips through an inbox. Now, we haven't done a fantastic job reaching out to states who aren't one of the current pooled fund members. But yeah, if there's an additional one out there, please reach out to me. We'll do what we can to get you through. And that's where these other states are right now: Minnesota, Montana, Arizona, Florida, Illinois, North Carolina. They're not listed up on the top of that list there, but they're working with their research, getting the finances and all of that. And I expect a good share of them will be participating.
Very good. Thank you.
The next research that's looking at using some of the BIM for Bridge deliverables, there is a research needs statement that's being written right now in COBS. Oh, one other thing. I want to thank Ian Howe for helping get the initial scope for this written up and getting the pooled fund, helping me get the pooled fund kicked off. He did a tremendous amount of work, so he deserves some credit for getting us where we are. Revise the Manual for Bridge Element Inspection, the MBEE AASHTO publication, to provide a national standard for location of element and identification of element level defects for digital twins. So this is currently, we're working on getting support through COBS, the TRB, I think it's AK14, support, JSTAN, JTCS. Scott Becker and I authored this research needs statement. Currently, we have technology, asset management, and safety and evaluation endorsement or support. We're looking at preservation. Hopefully, the AASHTO COBS Research Committee will have this as one of their top 5, and it'll go for NCHRP funding. The goal is to kind of get to a digital twin. If you look at the bottom left image, automated AI assessment of defects, there's a lot of software out there that can automatically identify defects in bridge components. And then we have this Manual for Bridge Element Inspection that's supposed to feed into our asset management, deterioration modeling, and all that. Well, how do you take that unmanned aerial system data and actually tie it back to a model? And that's where we're going to build off the design and construction deliverable or investigate that. The research is going to focus on ISO standards, open source non-proprietary standards, which is key, and that really aligns with AASHTO Resolution 19 that Trish Savansky talked about last time. I think it's a huge benefit to the industry to really focus on ISO standards that are non-proprietary, similar to PDFs, IFC, and things that align with that. That's a high level review of this. This is moving through. If someone wants a copy of this and provide input, or if any states want to endorse it individually, that would be great. This will lead to better deterioration modeling accuracy, having a more structured data format will also lead to benefits of AI use and those type of things. It's the original MBI was written quite a few years ago, and this should be a good update for it. And I really want to thank Scott Becker for help getting this written up and working with us and getting this moving through COBS. And anyone else who wants to support it. Hopefully we can get JSTAN and JTCS on board. And like I said, any individual state that we can list down for support would be awesome too. And if there's anyone that would interested in being a panel member, feel free to nominate anyone. Our another one is courtesy of the FHWA. Lynn Warren did a tremendous amount of work in helping this. We had a research needs statement that was originally written up. I think it was through AED 80 or AED 81 subcommittee. It's to develop a level of information needed. And this will be a guide specification for level of information needed for highway bridges to support project development within the BIM. It aligns with ISO 1817 and 19650. The core components, ACEC has identified a need that this is needed nationally. And to me, there really needs to be a national standard to have uniform expectations on the level of detail, level of information, level of development, model element breakdown, and getting the publication. Now, where we're looking at, where this really aligns with BIM for Bridge and where we're going is, when we're working on the IDM, IDSs, US data dictionaries, we're trying to maintain a one-to-one-to-one relationship so people understand that. And this is just another block on that, the one-to-one-to-one-to-one relationship, that this level of information needed will align with the workflow exchanges from the BIM for Bridge pooled fund and BIM for infrastructure. The funding came out of the structure side, but yeah, so we're a little bit ahead on that, but BIM for Infra is catching up. But as we progress this, there really needs to be a national standard. So the engineering firms have a standard level to work for, and there'll be some additional information that comes on out of this. Currently, this is aligned to be work completed by the BIM for Bridge Pooled Fund, the current contractors. If there's any questions on that, I'd be more than happy to answer some later. And I really want to give credit to Francesca Meyer. She's the one that wrote this research needs statement and helped get it to where it is. Tong Lin Warren and the FHWA who worked on her side to help get us funding to get this completed. This work should be starting soon. The last thing I want to mention, and I'll be very brief, is we're looking for a supplemental solicitation to the pooled fund for IFC 4.3 pilot support. We've piloted a couple of these, and it's a little challenging right now. Some of the challenges, was coordinating with software vendors. The software, IFC 4.3 alignment-based MVD still needs to get finalized. It's in draft format and things like that. So this will take funding, and it'll support individual states that participate in creating IFC models as part of their deliverables. It'll help communicate with one voice to software vendors, and it's just not Bentley, it'll be all the software vendors, because as we continue to develop these additional workflow exchanges, whether that be through fabrication, which is our next focus, and that type of work. It also helped document challenges that are met and what's needed. It really provides us an opportunity to really fully enforce implementing. This was an item that came out of discussions at BIM Week, and there was about 8 states that were interested at the time. We will be sending out an email to all the pooled fund participants. In addition, we will, there'll be a survey with that looking at what they're interested in doing it. And we're going to try to get some dates in there to line up. At Iowa, we've delivered an IFC model 4.3. PennDOT's done a couple, including one as a model as a legal document. I'm a little envious. They beat us to the IFC model as a legal document, but that's just digital delivery jealousy. I'll get over it. Yeah, so it's and then documenting, another part of it is documenting the updates that are needed with the IDMs, IDS in the US Data Dictionary that we have already developed. And I really want to stress, AR19, the ASHTO resolution that was a secondary benefit of the first BIM for Bridge Pooled Fund, really focus on open source, not proprietary data standards. The indirect outcomes that came out of that first pooled fund, including JSTAN, have been really great accomplishments of the pooled fund. And I told you I'd keep this under 10 minutes. I think I hit my target. If you guys have any questions, yeah, I'm all ears. If anyone wants copies of any of this information, they can have it. Go for it. My presentations are always an adventure. This is pretty civil, so I'm sorry.
Fast-paced adventure, Jim, if I might add.
Well, I'm trying to keep it high level just so people get the gist of it. And then if they want more information, I'm more than happy to follow up. Or as we get a little further in the research, we can get into the weeds. But I really want to focus on the audience we have here, which tends to be some higher level people, and a lot of them will already understand a lot of this stuff and recognize the funding need. Go ahead, guys. Is there any questions, or do we want to wait till later?
Jim, I'll ask a few questions only because I'm one of the ones that usually gets called out for having government speak and all the acronyms, and recognizing that we may have some people joining us that are maybe just starting their digital delivery journey or trying to get informed, and so a lot of the acronyms can be a bit much. And I'd mentioned the ADCMS, the Advanced Digital Construction Management System program and grants, but maybe for some of the less knowledgeable, if you could maybe briefly just state like what IFC is and what IFC 4.3 is and like what that kind of status or what it means.
Yeah. So IFC industrial foundation classes are an ISO standard. They have full adoption. It's an open source, non-proprietary. Think of IFC as the modeling version of PDFs. PDFs is an ISO open non-proprietary standard. It ensures longevity. When I'm, that's the information delivery manual, the actual publication, and that's the IDM. So there's the ISO standard, and where that comes in with BSI helped develop the ISO standard and get it published. Now BSI takes it a step further and creates their model view definitions, MVDs. They have an alignment-based MVD, and that's where infrastructure and BIM for Bridge come into it. We fit under that alignment-based MVD. Now that MVD is still in draft format. As part of the pooled fund work, we identified a few challenges that need to be updated. We've been coordinating with BSI, and BSI has been Building Smart International. Sorry, using more acronyms. I remember starting in here and everyone kept throwing digital delivery acronyms around. I didn't understand any of them, but now I use them, and sometimes I forget what the acronym even stands for. I just know the acronym. But so when we're looking at, that's what IFC is. It's an open source, non-proprietary. And what it really does is enable owners to take ownership of your data. And I don't want to be critical of software vendors, but we did a model as a legal document back in 2017. And I would be willing to bet if I open that up and the newer version of the authoring platform, there would probably be viewing challenges of that. Whereas you get into IFC, that gives you a permanent record and then a backbone for a digital twin into the future. So it's open source, not proprietary. The owners, bridge owners, can't own that information then. And then LOI, that kind of covered that level of information needed. It's in the presentation.
And 4.3 is the current standard?
That is the most current standard of IFC. They are working on a 4.4, which will include tunnels. And then once that is completed, that will be rolled into the MVD with that. Now, like I noted earlier, there's been some changes at Building Smart International, new leadership and whatnot, and that's where this discovery phase is going to be very important in this pooled fund and making sure we're in alignment with everyone and we get exactly what we were expecting to get delivered.
Yeah, and Building Smart does have a U.S. chapter. Many of you are probably engaged and involved at that level, but for those that aren't, there is a Building Smart U.S. Chapter that feeds into the Building Smart International, representing U.S. interests and companies and agencies as well. That we have Ian as one of our members on Digital Delivery Stakeholder Group to make sure that we're having that engagement and discussion and coordination with Building Smart. And as Terry has indicated in the chat, yes, AASHTO has formally endorsed and adopted IFC Industry Foundation class. And they've got a statement stating as much that's available online. But
and that is the AASHTO Resolution 19. That is part of that resolution.
Yeah, resolution. That was the term I was struggling for. Thanks, Jim.
Nope, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. But
Yeah.
I guess I interrupted anyway, so I must have meant it.
It's all good. It's all good. I don't know if anybody's got any questions specifically on these items or how they can get more information or get engaged. And certainly throw something in the chat or raise your hand. And Jim's email is in the chat as well. You can reach out to him directly for follow-up. Thank you, Jim, so much for filling in for us as we make some adjustments to accommodate weather and other people's schedules.
No, thank you very much for the opportunity to present. I think some of these initiatives are very good. Did you want me to share these slides with you guys later, or?
Yeah, if you could just
Okay.
send them to myself and Roger, and then we'll make sure we make them available for people to follow up as well.
Yep. And
I did.
Yeah, and if anyone has questions out there, yeah, please email. I will definitely respond. And if there's something else that's needed, yeah, I will help with any way I can.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. We will post them. I did drop slides on the mural too. And so if anybody has questions, they can go there and write them on reflection. Let's see. I guess we're I don't know that I need to share my screen necessarily, Matt. We're just ready to move on now to Washington State.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we can
let
give
me I'll go ahead and just set the stage. Like I had mentioned,
yeah.
we have our ADCMS programming grants, and I dropped some information into the chat for everybody that you can link. If you want background information on that, that program and the grants are targeted at state agencies, state DOTs, but very much meant to move the needle on digital delivery and provide some additional resources to help. There is certainly an emphasis in developing something that can be nationally applicable and not just only applicable for one specific state. And there's a lot of encouragement of collaboration across jurisdictions, having multiple states and also industry partners in those efforts as part of that program. There have been a couple rounds of grants and awards. We expect more when we've got more information to be able to provide. But we did want to highlight some of the projects that have been moved forward, particularly the earlier project grants that were from the first round of the grant program a couple years ago now through the IIJA legislation. And we have Washington State DOT willing, and I'm very happy to hear that their efforts moving forward, and hopefully generate some dialogue about what others might be doing in a similar space or how they could leverage what Washington DOT is doing with their first ADCMS grant. And we've got Jim online from Washington State to do that for us. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you. I assume everybody can see my screen and hear me all right?
We can, thank you.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to take you on a tour of what we're doing with our ADCMS grant. This is like a 20,000 foot elevation kind of overlook of the whole entire grant. And then I understand we have a lot of time for questions at the end, so I will stick at 20,000 and then let the questions dive deeper as we go into the conclusion of the presentation. So we did receive a grant, as Matthew said, and we've been working on it for about a year and a half now. And it takes a while to kind of get the consultants going. So even though we got our award back in November of 2023, we've basically been working on it for about a year and a half. But so I'm going to kind of take you through the slides and see, of course, this is an open time. So if you have any questions, feel free to stop us. So the first few slides I'm going to present are, kind of, I would say, nothing new to a lot of us who have been working on the digital delivery effort for a while. But I do understand there's a lot of people in attendance that this may be some of their first, experience with digital delivery. So here's what Washington State currently does for our delivery process right now. Like, we have plan sets that we put together in open roads. We're an open roads state. And we finish that off and we put them into a box and we basically give that off to a contractor and our construction oversight team. They go out and they build the product, and then when they're done, they go and they mark up the PDFs that we created. This is a PDF output right here that we create. We put down in this box. They grab that PDF output and they mark it up with Adobe or the one is Bluebeam. We use both of those products pretty extensively at our agency. And that gets put into a box as an output of their process. And then we have a process we have at our state it's called HATS. It stands for Highway Asset Tracking System. It is a database program that we built that is unique to our state, that basically when maintenance has to go out there and work on a sign, They can put that information into that box we call hats, and it sits there. Every time you want to get information from one of those entities to the next, it basically is a manual handoff process, and there is no basically bringing all of that back to the very beginning to enrich our designs at the beginning. What digital delivery we want to do in our state is accomplish this, where you can see at the bottom, we've now changed it from 3 boxes to 1 box. This is where we want to basically all be looking at the exact same box. We want to be dumping things into the same box. We want to be pulling things out of the same box. And we want automated handoffs as it goes from part to part to part. So this whole life cycle of an asset can be taking place. This is out of the report Advancing BIM for Infrastructure by FHWA, which I believe Matthew mentioned earlier today. And this is a diagram that I have liked because it kind of shows what we want to accomplish. On the outside, there are these major points of accessing this diagram, which is maintenance and operations, construction and design. And each one of those points does things, and that's in the different colors. But you can see all these little tiny circles, which are around the right down here. They are touches into what? They are touches into a common data environment down here. So you can see there's all these times at which this common data environment is touched as a product goes through its whole life cycle. And that whole process, as you carry things around and around and around and around, that basically creates what we're calling our agency a life cycle. And this is when we really start looking at assets and consider them important, because today in our process is what we do as an agency. Whenever we're dealing with things, we've honed in what we do at a particular part, but then we just basically let it die, let it sit there. It's only valuable to that one particular entity. At our agency, we have, I'm going to say, 4 major food groups. Okay, they are construction and design, which are obvious, but we call it in our agency, we call it maintenance and traffic, which other agencies would call it operations or maintenance and operations. But these are effectively the 4 main food groups of our agency. Each one part of our agency has taken and done things inside their box that has basically perfected the way they do their business and their work. Design has perfected the process using open roads on our agency to produce the plan sheets that I showed earlier. Construction has perfected their process to do whatever they need to do to process change orders, to pay contractors, to set up contracting processes. They do that great. Maintenance over there, as I mentioned a little bit ago, they use hats. They're good at that. They can take care of everything inside that. And our traffic people, for specifically traffic signs, are basically our overseers of the whole entire data that we have for signs. And all this happens, and all of our side of our agency is working and doing great. They're doing fantastic. WSDOT is a fantastic organization. The problem with this all is we don't connect it. And this is what my grant is doing. Everything in orange is what my grant is doing. We're wanting to figure out with our agency on one simple asset, and that's a traffic sign. How do I do this? How do I bring all these parts and pieces, the 4 main food groups of our agency, together to connect them? And you can see I've taken the term common data, which comes from that FHWA roadmap, and I've changed it to connected data. And this is important that we kind of figured out as we were going through the process, because when we started a year and a half ago, we were looking for a common data environment. What we realized after a course of time is that common is going to be extremely difficult to do. Why? Because each one of these entities going on the outside has already effectively perfected their processes. So if we were to ask hats, for example, on the right side of that diagram, to basically become part of the common data environment, hats would basically scream foul, because they'd have to redevelop their database and redevelop all of their code associated with it. So what we decided was we were going to work on a connected data environment to kind of connect all these things together. And I'll show you a slide a little bit later on how we kind of envisioned that and came up a little bit more of that. Now, we explored a lot IFCs. And, a year and a half ago, I knew nothing about IFCs. I've been to a few IHEAP conferences. I basically heard some presentations about IFCs, and I really honestly, I didn't get it. In the course of the last year and a half, I've gotten a lot more information and a lot more study time where I can kind of dig into what an IFC is. And this might be breaking it down to, this is, again, I'm no data programmer, and I've mentioned that a million times. I'm a civil engineer by background, by training. I'm admittedly a techie civil engineer, but in all aspects, I'm not a data programmer. And so there is, I think, a metamorphosis, a change in what we do as an industry, where people who are civil engineers honestly need to become more data savvy. We need to kind of start getting that understanding of how our product is utilized after we complete our designs. And so that's where I kind of started approaching IFCs. I started out becoming more data savvy. I started out coming to learning about it. And I kind of broke down in my mind. I broke down IFCs into two pieces. I broke them down into images and then to the data associated with it. At the last IHEAP, there was a presentation done by Connecticut, and there was, I can't remember exactly the name of the lady that gave the presentation. It'll come to me in a minute, but she's well known in the whole digital delivery side of things. But she quoted in her presentation a term that I really latched onto, and that was 3DI and 2DI. The I stands for intelligent, and that started to click with me because with IFCs, what I saw was images, but we weren't getting the data. We weren't getting the information that we needed to basically to enrich that whole life cycle of the particular asset. So on the right-hand side over here, I have effectively, this is an image, effectively an IFC image that we kind of did. And you can see it looks like a sign that's rectangular. Okay, 15 inches height, 24 inches wide. But guess what? It's an R1-3. What's an R1-3? Multi-way, stop, four-way. And so this information here, what we have, an R1-3, multi-way, stop, four-way, 15 by 24, and then additional information like post height, mounting height, the exact location, all that kind of stuff is vital to us. This is the data on the left-hand side that we need in order to turn a particular item into a life cycle. The image on the right-hand side for us and what we are basically doing is not as important to us as the data. Today, for example, most of our signs are installed on our contracts simply with a cell inside the CAD, which is a circle with a line next to it. Okay, that's all you see. And then beyond that, that leads you to things in tables and that basically say all this information that's right here. And this that table information, all that richness of the data that's behind the image is what is needed for construction to do their process. It's what's needed for maintenance if they ever had to maintain it, to replace it because it got hit, damaged, or some other thing. Then you change the post or something like that. That is the richness of the information that we need out of this process. So going back to, I got to give Connecticut a lot of kudos with that term, 3DI and 2DI, because that to me started to make sense, started to click a little bit. And my work that I did focused more on the I part of things, not on the image. So I know IFC does a lot of image work, and we didn't honestly particularly work on that much in my process. We worked mainly on the data side of things. So we looked at what it would take using IFC to import and to export out of open roads, for an open road state as we used. I had a consultant doing this work for me. They're familiar with Autodesk, so they also played with Autodesk a little bit. But generically, we came up with to take that data that I was showing on the prior screen on the left-hand side and to extract it out of an IFC model and to put it through its process, bring it back to open roads. Basically, it became a 9-step process. It's not as simple as effectively clicking a button to ask for the extract and clicking a button to ask for the import. And neither Bentley or Autodesk can do this, or they both can do it, but it's not a simple process. And so if we want to succeed, one of my things is if we want to succeed at IFC, then the industry needs to start working on making this a simple extract and import for the purpose of the life cycle. But I don't really, in a lot of ways, I don't actually blame the industry. Here's why. There's those two blocks right there where I put X's on. Those two box have no standard property set for extracting. So that means effectively the Bentley Autodesk of the worlds, the Trimbles, the other entities that want to work in this open platform for the purpose of extracting and exchanging data, and all states, for example, there's nothing that indicates what those two boxes need to look like. So that means that if any one of those vendors or even one of the states wants to build something that takes care of that part, excuse me, it is a custom process. That means everybody's unique and everybody is different. Similarly, on the item types that get exported out of open roads, there's no standard of what item types need to look like. So effectively, that means that that is a unique process to every particular state or entity or city or county that wants to be part of this process. So I think what we basically come up with is that we need to basically start working towards a way to import and export more easily as an industry, which means in a lot of ways, it means utilizing common data dictionaries. And that's what we did with our work. So let me show you kind of what a process is for pulling out a data dictionary for, let's just say, a common term, which we all effectively in our infrastructure world, we would use asphalt. Well, the first thing I'd say right off the bat is I don't call asphalt in the state of Washington. I call it HMA, hot mixed asphalt, or I think that's what it's called. That's kind of, neither here nor there. We could probably figure that out. But I just went into the program, into the Building Smart Data Dictionary, and I just typed in asphalt, and I got 6 responses of what asphalt could be out of their searching mechanism, and they're right here. And so I started looking at those. I'm like, well, I'm looking for asphalt that I'd put on a highway or a parking lot. Okay, well, looking at those, I'd probably discount 5 of those right off the bat. There's one called external asphalt layer. I'm like, okay, maybe somebody has indicated that external asphalt layer is what it should be. Okay, so I clicked on external asphalt layer. Here's what popped up on the left-hand side. And one of my, kind of criticisms a little bit is, look, the definition and the description are blank. I'm like, well, what does that mean? And I have no idea, but being an engineer and having done some work in the piping world, I look down here under class, it says cast iron pipe, a durable pipe made of cast iron used for plumbing and drainage. I'm like, oh, what they mean by external asphalt layer is an external coating, an asphalt coating for a cast iron pipe. Okay, well, that's definitely not the asphalt that I'm interested in doing for my work. So, there's things like this and what we are using and what we have for my infrastructure, horizontal infrastructure, that is just missing inside of the data dictionary side of things. And so if I basically want to say to any vendor, what I want a model, I want it to be built, I want to be able to extract my information on asphalt, IFC is not going to be able to help me with that at this moment. So here's effectively how IFC does it and how I did it with traffic signs. And this work is available online. So what I did is my team, we worked on putting traffic signs into the data dictionary. So in the BSDD. So what I did was, again, I just showed right here, I just went to BSDD, I typed in traffic signs, and you can see here started listing several things. There's more to this, but there was nothing. Discount this first one on the top because that's the one that I did. But if you looked at all this other stuff down here, there was information on signing, but it was probably associated with more buildings than it was with road infrastructure. So we came in and we actually created this one here, which is traffic signs. And if you clicked on that, it would pop up this and it would show, you've got 42 properties in there, and it is associated in IFC properly under the class of sign in IFC. So it is related back into IFC. It's there. And it's got 42 properties with it, and it's got more information associated with it. But let me just click on the traffic signs, and you can see this fabrication date right here pulls up. It's got fabrication date. It's got a description of a definition of what it is, simply the date the sign was created, not installed, but created. There is an installation date in there as well. And then you can see down here, it's associated with a property and a classes called sign history. And so it's basically, if you're a Department of Transportation and you're looking for something associated with traffic signs, you can see effectively it starts to make sense when you click on this and you bring it in here. And so what we could basically do, and this is another ADCMS grant that I'm involved in, is working with Oregon and California, partnering with them. We're waiting for it to get through its process of federal funding, but it's been received. But the idea is taking this specific data dictionary associated with traffic signs and going through with Oregon and California and making it effectively for all 3 states, maturing this process from what is focused on the state of Washington to what can be utilized in Oregon and California, to try to broaden this up to make it something that we can all work on. Now, when you look at this specific traffic sign thing, you can see that there's a fabrication date, but the value that comes to it from that the vendors get out of it, they start getting the exact code for which should be in their program if they want to talk about fabrication date. Okay, so it's got the richness to it that vendors need to be able to start working on products that can effectively be more universal, that more entities can start working on. Now, when we went through our process of creating it, by the way, there's a QR code right there if you want to scan it with your phone and do some multitasking for a minute. This will take you directly to the BSDD search for our traffic signs, so you can pull it up there and you can kind of play with it and look at it. But it took us, honestly, a long time to create this. I'll get into that in my next slide a little bit, but our latest version is 0.5. We've had 42 properties in there, and there's 7 groups of properties. And we utilized, for anybody that's done any kind of experimenting with this, we've utilized the Excel spreadsheet template methodology that the BSDD has out there. So there are vendors that have created things to create data dictionaries. We decided to kind of effectively, I'm going to go right to be vendor agnostic. I'm going to go right to the spreadsheet given by BSDD and use that methodology. So I can't really speak to the vendor process that they might be able to improve this a little bit in their interaction on how to create. I did play with one of those a little bit and just basically said, well, I basically have to spend a lot of time learning how that vendor does their process, and I didn't feel that was valuable use of my time, so I just stuck with the spreadsheet methodology. So we basically, from our whole work that we did on data dictionaries, kind of got some lessons learned popped up here. What I can basically give is I give very good kudos to BSDD and their spreadsheet and their online application. It worked. And I know that they've had to have spent a lot of time on that spreadsheet. I'm an Excel geek, and that was a very impressive Excel spreadsheet that does that work. So kudos to them. It was fantastic. It worked. It did take some. I actually got an intern, and the intern I got was a data intern and knew JSON files and Python. And as a result, was able to create a little application to do some of the work that basically takes the Excel spreadsheet and dumps and creates the, I might be missing this somewhere, but I think it creates the JSON file. that can then get uploaded into the BSDD tool. So he created a little program for me, which is perfect for civil engineer because I can look at all the attributes for the signs and get them all right, get them all related correctly. He took care of the Python and took care of that exporting process and JSONs and all that stuff, and then got to where all I have to do is take the output and upload it into BSDD. So I think that that's something that's like a tool, for example, the BSDD might be able to make available. You can have what I've done, and so to start with, if you want, but that would really help. A tool that would basically take that exporting of that spreadsheet and make it easier for somebody like civil engineering to put into BSDD. We didn't have any training out there that we could find. We looked all over the place. The best way we honestly did was we did talk to BSI a few times and got some few emails back and forth that helped us kind of figure things out. But we did it the hard way, and it took us about 40 to 60 hours, literally, of work for us to put in that traffic sign into the BSDD. That's a long time, and if you have to expand that out amongst all the assets we need to be considering, that is a lot of work. However, I will say this: most of that 40 to 60 hours was spent figuring how to work the spreadsheet, figuring how to do the export, figuring out how to make that process work and learn it. If training were available to do that, that would make that process much shorter. But I can tell you too that we started playing with a second data dictionary associated with, can't remember what we did, but was it Guardrail? I think it might have been Guardrail. We played around with Guardrail, and we just decided, well, oh no, it was 88 curve ramps. We played around with 88 curve ramps. So let's just see if we can create a data dictionary for 88 curve ramps. And we started doing it. It was honestly, a couple hours, and we had a pretty decent data dictionary associated with 88 curve ramps. So we didn't take it too far. We just were experimenting on how long it might take to do a second one. So while it's 40 to 60 hours to do that first one, it's probably going to be 5 hours to do a second one and subsequent ones. So much less. The largest thing we had as a problem was getting people to agree on attributes. So I said we had 42 attributes in our data dictionary. It took us months to get through the process of getting different parts of our agency to agree on what goes in or what does not go in to that data dictionary. That is going to be the largest problem any of us have to undertake and this is a national effort. I want to make it a national effort. But when you get on that national stage, it takes a lot of time to get people to agree nationally. When I was young, and back in the late 90s and the early aughts, I was on national panels to do pretty much the exact same thing for ITS. ITS, my Kohu cameras couldn't speak to my Pelco cameras, and I had to have 5 different programs running at my traffic management center to operate my variable message signs across the region. And that was very inefficient. I could not swap out parts. If I had a new vendor come to me that want to sell me another variable message sign, that meant another program. And we developed the NTCIP, National Transportation Protocols for ITS, and we made that to where it was interchangeable, to plug and play. That took years. And I was on those panels for things like variable message signs and cameras and weather stations. That took years. It was good, hard work that needed to be done, and the benefits are now seen tremendously 10 to 15 years later. So I'm seeing that we're going to have to do the exact same thing with our data dictionary work that we take on nationally. It's going to be some tough work at the beginning, but the idea is once we get those things locked down and the vendors don't have to start basically building in unique things going on and on and on, then it's going to start becoming smooth, seamless, and that's our goal. Somebody said earlier today, think about PDF. Yeah, it kind of is thinking about PDF, so that we can all kind of basically take that, pass it on to somebody else that can click on it, open it, and view it. I would say that I'd add, just like I was talking about earlier, I'd add the I to the end of that, an intelligent PDF. Something's got that data embedded into it so that we can actually pull the data out and we can start making life cycle choices on our products. So a little bit of a quandary, I'd have to say, with the whole process is searching through the BSDD dictionary is really honestly a pain. I know the goal is not to create something new inside the data dictionary. We don't want to do that. Or sorry, we do want to create something new. We don't want to copy what's already there. We want, if something's already there, like asphalt, for example, asphalt was already there. I'm not going to want to recreate it. I want to use it because it's there. The process of searching for it is difficult inside of BSDD. So like you saw, I came up with 6 different things associated with asphalt. Only one of them thought it might be related to what I was wanting to find in there, but it really wasn't in the end. So the process of doing that searching is difficult. There's a lot of information in BSDD. It's huge, but a lot of it comes from the horizontal or the vertical infrastructure. And so I'm sure the horizontal infrastructure, the pool fund study is going to get more robust on that. And so I think that that's something that can be improved in the process. Definitions and descriptions are not filled out for a lot of things you click on. So a lot of things, all you get is basically the title of the item. I think it should be effectively a standard of the industry that if you're going to input something into the BSDD, that's great, but it must come with a description. Because for entities outside trying to utilize what you've developed, it doesn't help if all I see is effectively just a few words. But it's basically a word sometimes. For the title, I want to see something more robust that indicates to me whether or not I'm picking the right product. So I don't get effectively, if I'm talking about guide rail and you're talking about guardrail, we want to make sure that that's okay. You can basically call one guide rail, another person can call it guardrail, but the definitions down below are going to be what are going to tell us it's the metal thing alongside the road on wood posts that stops cars or deflects cars or whatever. We come with the description, but what it comes back to, it's going to be called guide rail or guardrail. It doesn't really matter in the end because it's a computer program. The computer programs can translate on the backside if necessary. But just we need to think about definitions need to be there and descriptions need to be filled out. So thinking about my whole entire grant again, coming back to the higher level, I'll talk a little bit about that centerpiece, which is the connected data environment, and why we had to kind of start thinking about connected versus common. So this here is an image that shows 2 databases. They're plopped into a program and they're plotted out. The purple dots are a 40-year-old database that we have been utilizing for obviously decades, and it is very rich with information. It has when sign is installed, fabricated, MUTCD number. It's got whether it was last time it was maintained. It's got wood posts, steel posts. It's got tons of information with it. Unfortunately, it is geolocated using a linear referencing system. What does that mean? That means milepost and state route. So this right here is state route 522 in our state. Milepost, I don't remember exactly what milepost is. Let's just say for sake of conversation, it's 10. Okay, this is 10 right here, and this is 10.1, 10.2, 10.3, 10.4, on and on. So this is how all of these things inside of our database are plopped onto a imaginary center line of road. Unfortunately, that doesn't really help us much when it comes to start thinking about putting things together from multiple databases. The stars that you see in here are from a LiDAR extract that we did using artificial intelligence. And we found the LiDAR found these signs in the area. They're stars, but the problem with the artificial intelligence work that we did is artificial intelligence isn't able to honestly give us that much information. It's really, really good at finding a blank panel in the world and saying, I think this is a sign. And it's really, really good at giving me a geolocation because of its LiDAR information with imagery associated with it. So we can use the computer to tell us there's these things in the area, But beyond that, the computer's accuracy starts to drop off very much. Like it can guess an MUTCD number. It's really good with MUTCD numbers if it's a physical shape that changes, like a stop sign or yield sign. 2 thumbs up, it does great. Beyond that, some standardized symbols like do not enter, curve warning, pedestrian crossing, signal ahead symbols, it can start getting some of that and does pretty good. Then the accuracy starts dropping off a lot from there on. So what we needed to do was figure out a way to bring these 2 databases together to connect them because of the value associated with each of those. This particular dot right here, it's actually 3 dots in the database stacked on top of one another because it's a linear referencing system by 1/10 of a mile. That is, but remember, it comes from our 40-year-old database, extremely rich in data, but has really poor location. Over here are 3 signs found by artificial intelligence, located by GPS, really accurate. This is information is data rich, location rich, but data poor. If we can connect these, then we can actually start bringing them together and through that connected data environment, enrich everything throughout this whole life cycle process. So we did that in a thing called GUIDs. Now, this is something that's getting into real database information, but somebody can probably type in what a GUID actually stands for, but it's like graphically unique identifier, if I think. But that's this complicated number right here that you see here, over here, and down here. This is a GUID number. So it's basically a unique number that can be attached to an asset that basically can make it trackable or traceable. Some genius figured out how to do this. But we basically realized that we're going to have to take these GUIDs in the different databases. TSMS is our 40-year-old database up here, rich in information. Down here is our LiDAR information, rich in data and location, but lacking effectively in all the other information that it can provide. But we want to basically connect these through this GUID information for which we can do. We figured out through our process and how to do that. So that data join, it allowed us to basically start enriching things, to start bringing things together, to start thinking about making information more valuable as it goes through its whole life cycle of the process. The first match that we did was on like a 17-mile test section. We just did a match for a little part of it, and the first matching of this takes a heck of a long time. It just was, it's honestly becomes, if I were to just do, for a whole entire 7,000 miles we have of our agency, this is going to take too long. So we have to we haven't figured this out, but we have to come up with a way to effectively try to figure out how to match things faster. I have right now, I'm going through the process of this particular area where you're seeing this image is an urban location with lots of signs. I'm thinking this is going to take a heck of a long time to do this urban location. So what I did is I went back to our vendor that supplied us some of our artificial intelligence work, and I gave them another stretch of data and imagery that's in very rural Washington state. And what I'm thinking is that this matching system is going to happen very fast in rural areas where our signs are more spread out, not so many. And I'm thinking that is going to be probably 75% of our miles of our highways in our state are going to be pretty fast to do this join. It's going to be the 25% for which in urban areas for which it's going to take a long time and be a lot of deep effort. So that's something we're looking on. We're experimenting with now with kind of doing a rural area, see if I can do things faster in that area. When it comes down to construction and maintenance, what I basically have determined as we've gone through this process is we must make it easy for them. If we don't make it easy for them and we don't make it save time and allow them to save time, then they're not going to adopt this process. So on the right-hand side, we experimented and we created a interface for construction and maintenance to use for just a traffic sign to allow them to use a geolocated device. It can be an iPhone, it can be an iPad, it can be any kind of tablet that can be geolocated with internet connection. And we allowed them to effectively click on out to an area and then basically pull it up, geolocate it, and they can see where they are, and they can see dots in the area, which basically are the signs for them to consider for inspection purposes or for maintenance purposes inside the area. It worked pretty slick. It was pretty nice. We ran one test with it, and I understand that Utah actually can do this, and with some of their projects, which I think they're more advanced at this than we are, but we just created a test environment to do this in. But the interface we started to play with here and develop for our work, we hope to mature as we go throughout our grant process. We're not done with our work. We want to do a pilot project now to basically try to utilize the processes we developed for a whole life cycle of a traffic sign and take that whole process digital. And we're hoping that we take this little application you see on the right-hand side and we mature it even more for the construction process and the maintenance process as we go through our pilot program. But if we don't, we basically learned very quickly in dealing with construction and maintenance. If you don't make it easy for them, if you don't save them time, they're not going to be on board. And if I don't have them on board for that whole entire life cycle, then I'm really going to risk making this process work for the agency. So this is a huge goal for us. As a result of the work that we did, we effectively completed phase 1 of my grant. Phase 1 of my grant was to try to figure out how we as an agency can turn the life cycle of a sign into a digital process. What we basically came up with a conclusion as our work on phase 1 is a precise location is vital. It is the way to match things. It is very difficult if you're going to be extracting new information to basically match things inside of databases if you don't have a precise location. Like for example, if we have our information from our maintenance people, they're collecting things. They oftentimes get things based upon where they are on a mile by mile post on our routes. They sometimes are guessing at that because they can't see a milepost marker, or they ran their odometer, and they kind of guessed that I'm at milepost 57.5, but they could have actually been on the wrong side of milepost 57, and they could be actually 56.5. Just a common, honest mistake. So the precise location, the better we can get at that, the better we're going to be for all life cycle work. The thing that we also determined really quickly is at our agency, especially for signs, because that's what we delved into. We have a lot of redundant steps in our work. People create and put into information to things like all their codes effectively on what the sign MUTCD code is. They look it up, and that's a maintenance action. The design does the exact same thing when they design. And construction might actually, be looking at it for the purpose of whether or not the sign is what they were told to install. There's a lot of redundant steps in our work. We need real-time data to be available to reduce that redundancy. So instead of the guy looking up in maintenance as he's replacing the sign, looking it up through the sign fabrication manual, what MUTCD number is, it just populates because he knows he's got a sign fabricated. He knows it's a stop sign. He knows he needs to put it up. He can basically pull that in automatically from the central database because it's there. So that real-time data availability is critical. We basically walked through this whole entire process, and we cataloged effectively the whole entire steps of how we do signs from beginning of design all the way through a maintenance action, effectively where it can be looped back around. And because of all those redundancies that we had in the process and all of that work people do because they're having to create the process for themselves, we basically estimated that just from doing our signing in our state, we could save $361,000 annually if we were to go to a digital lifecycle model process and a connected data environment. So that to us was a big conclusion that we've already reached. And I took that decision to my management earlier in this year to try to get backing for advancing digital delivery in our agency. With the work that we did a lot more than what I just talked about. And so we basically did traffic signs, but we also did a lot of LiDAR extraction. We tried curb ramps. We tried some Meyer FDE elements. That's some traffic safety information that needs to come along with for crash locations. We did spend a lot of work trying to extract things out of our LiDAR and imagery work, and so we spent a lot of our effort doing that at the beginning. So we did do more than just traffic signs in our work, but I focused today on our traffic signs because that's the one we're wanting to take through the whole entire life cycle of things. With that, there is my contact information. I'd be happy to break down into conversation if anybody wants to contact me in detail, and also am able to take questions today.
Thank you very much, Jim. There were a few questions in the chat. I'm just going to repeat them. That way you can have an opportunity to respond. So the first one is back on your challenges with the Building Smart Data Dictionary, the BSDD. The question is there a role for AASHTO to play in seeking nationwide agreement and submission to BSDD, recognizing the time that would be involved?
I think the answer is yes. I think that, and this is a little bit of a soapbox for me. So, and this is Jim Mayhew's opinion. Okay. We definitely need national standards on data dictionaries. The effort that I have had to do over the course of the last year just to do a data dictionary for my agency for traffic signs is, if I had to do that with 49 other states and not to mention counties and cities, that's a waste of time as an industry. We need to recognize that. And we basically, and who solves that for us? It's like the AASHTO Green Book does for design standards, right? It would be the same thing effectively that's needed for our industry with this asset information. And so to me, the answer is definitely. Who does that? Is it AASHTO? I think they're probably the best aligned to do it, honestly, because of what they have done for our industry throughout my career. You know, I've seen the evolution of the green books. You know, I think they have the ability to do that with getting the collaboration across the states. And so I think I would probably put AASHTO at the helm for that. And I know that the pooled fund study for infrastructure is starting to walk down this path of dealing with a lot of the problems that I've brought up. And I give them a lot of kudos. Unfortunately, my state is one of those idiosyncrasies. I can't get money for participating in the pooled fund study for infrastructure, although we're on 2 other pooled fund studies, but we'll fight that battle. We're working on it. But I'd give credit to that pooled fund study for right now for a lot of the work they're doing. I think they're doing fantastic work. They've got an understanding of these problems too, by the way. But I think AASHTO needs to have some step up a little bit to start working on some standards.
Yeah. Roger, you had put a couple of comments in the chat as well. Did you want to elaborate a little bit before I get to the next question?
Yeah, I guess I mean, I think Jim mentioned it in the way that BIM for Infrastructure is working on dictionaries. BIM for Bridge is doing that, also focused on bridges. And so this is a different domain, if you will, that they're not covering, although there's probably some overlapping things in there that could be leveraged and used. So that's one point when we're developing dictionaries to try to not recreate, reuse things that others have done, and coordination is a need. And I mentioned that is something that there's a federal highway project that is involved in exploring a central BIM transportation library, which could be sort of a way for coordinating these kinds of different dictionaries. And AASHTO could be a great home for it. Federal Highway is not trying to own or operate this, but facilitate it is the understanding. So maybe, all these things could come together over time if there's enough interest. And maybe we'll talk some more about the CBTL in a future session so people know a little more about it.
Okay, very good. All right, the next question, Jim, was certainly kudos on the work that you're doing and taking on this task, despite all the challenges. Uh, the question is, how do you think it can be scaled beyond even Washington, Oregon, and California, maybe more nationally or even internationally, I guess?
How it can be scaled? Well, let me go back just a half second. When I created my traffic science data dictionary, I reached out to several states where I had contacts. I was able to get information from several states on what they have in their data dictionaries for traffic signs. And I did take that into consideration as I built mine. So I basically tried to take the approach of collaborating, bringing all those entities, that information from those other entities together to try to create what I created. Okay. So the second part of that question, or my response really to their question is how do we basically build from California, Oregon, and Washington out? And basically what I would say, to me, it seems, maybe I'm underthinking this, is it seems simple. I give the work that we do. Oregon's the lead on that ADCMS grant. And so basically we go through doing like 15 assets and try to create a data dictionary for them and partner with the pooled fund study or give them the pooled fund study that information. Because of my background with NTCIP and my history with that, I wholeheartedly believe in open collaboration. What I'm doing here, folks, if you want it, you got it. If you're doing something similar, then give it to me. The fact that some of us believe, I don't know, and this is why I'm so big on IFCs and data dictionaries, is we need to be able to, as an industry, collaborate in the work that we're doing. Is my data dictionary going to be perfect for your state? I would probably say no. I bet you anything, it's probably going to get you 90% of the way there. And so if I basically saved you 90% of your work, then that should be something you should latch on to and basically say, wow, you saved me 90% of my work. What two more things do I need to add to it? Then we can deal with that. We can add those two additional things. And if you go into the data dictionary right now at BSDD, I think I'm actually listed as a contact. There's a way inside of BSDD that you can actually contact me through that and request a change to that data dictionary. I think we start doing that kind of stuff. Basically, if you're finding that I didn't have, I don't know, sign tilts, okay? I don't have sign tilts in my data dictionary, but you find it really important that from your state that sign tilt be there, then, okay, let's have a discussion about that. Maybe we take care of it inside the data dictionary. Maybe it's something you take care of individually as your state. So I think that's the way we need to start. Definitely need to collaborate in our industry, and when we build things, consider sharing them.
Yeah, excellent. Tricia, I saw you had some comments on what the infrastructure pooled fund is doing on the data dictionary. Do you care to elaborate or provide a little more context verbally?
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I love listening to you. You're involved in so many things that you always catch me up on things. So.
Oh my goodness. Well, I am. I have about 14 things open right now. So yeah, I was just asking, and I'm seeing a lot of comments in the chat. So two things, you guys, from me. First of all, I hope that JSTAN and this AASHTO task force can really take the lead and get data standards adopted and endorsed by AASHTO. So that's what we're doing. Jim, I don't know if you were on yesterday. I presented on that. So new task force been created to say, how can AASHTO endorse modern data standards like the BSDD the USDD that they're proposing to do. So that's what, we're hoping for. And thank you. I was just writing for putting pressure and talking about this more and more because we need more states to say this is important. I know Jacob too, there's work being done in Texas, several other states. So first of all, that's happening. And I look forward to being on those meetings and then bringing back, Matt, some of that information as far as what happens with AASHTO. And secondly, yes, I was just looking to see if anybody was on the BIM for Infrastructure Pooled Fund, or maybe you're going to have an update at the next digital delivery meeting, but I've asked, and so I just put in the chat what I was getting from, this is from Abhishek and then Aaron Costin. Those are a couple people working on that US data dictionary. So I just put in the chat what Abhishek had written to me. And so he had written specifically because we're looking for as soon as possible, in Minnesota, we would use that information, that data, just like Jacob is saying, and just like you're saying, Jim, we really need some of this as soon as possible. And we have a nice Connect grant, and I can present on that at some point, Matt, if you want me to, but that's really what we're saying there, Jim, is that we want the vendors, the technology solution providers, Bentley and Trimble specifically in this case, to come together and get that data passed, within their systems, so we don't have to go through the effort that you're talking about, Jim. So we're working on that in Minnesota, and we really want to have these data dictionaries as soon as possible. But so then the second comment, which I could put it in the chat too, so the context is important. So like I mentioned, they're looking at design to construction data exchange and the construction to asset management as-built data exchange. So the context, Abhishek said, is important because a full US data dictionary should also have data from asset management and GIS systems. And there is the AEGIST pooled fund that developed a data dictionary for geospatial LRS road inventory systems. So there is, that available. So it would take a combination of those, the AEGIST data dictionaries, what's happening with the Bridge Pooled Fund, as well as then creating this BIM for infrastructure data dictionary. So lots of work, but I think also what I'm reading here is that they need to have more funding. So looking for more funding, in a longer term. And so I don't know, I don't see any, say, slated to be ready by July 2026. So there is some, I think, again, if anybody else, I'm not on the BIM for pooled fund infrastructure, but I just am reading exactly what was sent to me by Abhishek. So if anyone else has any comments. So sorry, a lot to say there, but again, great work, Jim. Signing is a good focus area, you guys, because signing has a ton of attribution and a ton of signs that are replaced every year. And so I think that's a really great topic that you focused on. Anything else, Matt, that you wanted to hear from me?
No, that was perfect. Thank you, Tricia. I think there's an opportunity here, obviously, with those that are members of the DDSG and just involved in the discussion for us to connect some dots and get the work that Jim's been doing over to the transportation pooled fund, and back and forth, etc. Um, uh, let's see. I got a few hands up, so we'll go to hands, and then I'll come back to the chat. Brad, go ahead.
Yeah, I really apologize. I missed the meeting the other day. Tricia, I think it'd be great if you and I talked a little bit about the J-Stand. Just letting you know that the AASHTO task force, I'm doing a kickoff meeting with Kevin Marcia on Thursday morning. So we'll start that ball rolling. But I think it would be good if I get engaged with the J-Stand folks as well as the other electronic engineering standards folks. But just wanted to let you know where that was.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Brad. Brad's going to be a good contact for us as a member with a lot of these activities as well. Glad you were able to get on.
Yeah, and just remember, I'm not the technical expert here. I know enough about it to be dangerous, but certainly willing to kind of be that liaison for this group to AASHTO and to other leadership forums.
Yeah, we very much appreciate that perspective and your role with your agency. I hope the weather's treating you okay.
I love the winter and I love the snow, so it's all good.
And then Jim, Iowa, go ahead.
Now, I will speak briefly, and I'm just going to piggyback a little bit off what Tricia said. Um, I think JSTAN does have a role in these national data standards. The BIM for Bridge Pooled Fund has already created a U.S. data dictionary for bridge items, but having those national standards and any national standard that comes out in addition, I know BSI is working with the Open Geospatial and national standards in that way, needs to have an AASHTO endorsement, in my opinion. That's my opinion, not AASHTO's, but they're having national standards is what really is going to enable digital delivery. So you don't have 50 states doing 50 different things. In my opinion, that would be a failure. And I think Bridge has done a very good job at creating national standards historically, and hopefully we continue to do that. I did see one comment in there about continuing BIM for infrastructure after 2028. I believe the pooled fund will have an opportunity to have a phase 2 when it gets closer to closing out, and determine then that Iowa can still continue that. If another state wants to lead, well, that's a discussion at a future time. We don't need to be BIM heroes. Everyone wants to accomplish the same goal. So thanks. That's all I got.
Yeah. And in the chat, Jacob from TechStod, he's one of our group members as well. He just stating that Texas is very interested. They're working in this area as well, and happy to collaborate with you, Jim, and what you're doing in Washington. So we'll connect you with Jacob. And Jacob, unless you want to come in and
I just said
elaborate.
Chat. I just direct messaged him. So
Okay.
Information. Please add it.
Yeah. Excellent. A question, is there another lead organization that is taking over for Iowa in 2028 to continue the BIM for infrastructure pooled fund? Well, that's not a question for you, Jim. That's an Iowa question. So I don't know if they want to pop
That's
in
the
and
one I was talking about when I
gotcha.
said
All right.
no. So
Sorry.
I've already
I'm
addressed
catching
that.
up. Gotcha. Thank you.
2028 is 2 years away. In a year or so, they can discuss that. Usually, it's not uncommon to have a 1-year extension to a TPF pooled fund, and that can continue moving forward. And then you are allowed to do one continuing phase of phase 2. Now, BIM for Bridge, when it expires, we'll have to go out for solicitation or figure out what our next steps are in helping to complete some of those workflow exchanges in that environment. And I do have a few ideas on that, but we're a little premature to start worrying about that. Thanks.
Yep. I'm trying to keep up with the chat as it's moving and other chats are coming in. Let's see. There is I don't know if this is a question for you, Jim, or not. Does anyone think that one of the problems is this is considered an IT data computer issue rather than an engineering one? It seems that most of this information needs to be in the Green Book or the Bridge Standards or METCD, etc. Is that a thought?
I could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, okay.
There has to be a marriage between traditional civil engineering practices and technology, modern technology. I've mentioned this to my official title is Assistant State Design Engineer at the agency. So I'm, sit over a good portion of the state when it comes to designing projects. When I first started I sat down at a computer in 1991, my first job at the agency, and did 3-dimensional models for my project back then. That was 30 plus years ago. Okay. There needs to be, since then, effectively the team that we use to create our designs usually is 1 squad leader and 2 entry level, or not lead, but 2 working level engineers, and then underneath them is 2 technicians. Those are all engineering side staff. The technicians that are underneath there are only the ones that basically do the CAD work and do computations and estimating, calculations for estimates. What I tell my people, that team needs to change. There's 2 reasons it needs to change. One is because I'm not getting the civil engineers that are coming to me like they used to. I have a lot of vacancies at my civil engineering positions coming out of school. They're not getting to me. So I don't have the people. Number two is our whole industry is evolving. Technology is coming more and more and more every day into everything that we do. That means that what I look at that 5 people that normally deliver projects, I'm looking at one of those persons is probably going to dissolve away and not exist anymore and get replaced by somebody who is a data person, a computer person, a person that thinks about software programs and things like that. So what I'm basically telling my people is you as an industry, us as an industry, are going to have to evolve. I'm going to have to be having one of my people become more of a data person and more of a technology person. And that's going to help us deliver projects in the future. So that's going to help me get that, basis of the data, the I part of the model, to make sure the model works, that kind of stuff. That is going to be an evolution to our practices. So I think what I'm basically seeing is that we as an industry, a civil engineer, needs to be able to think more techie than they did when I first started. When I was trained, and had a quarter worth of hand drafting in college. That's going to change. It's going to be a quarter worth of programming, or something like that. We're going to have to change what we do as an industry to kind of adapt to the future. So I think we're going to have to be, as civil engineers, that's what I was trained as, we're going to have to be more techie, more tech savvy. It's going to be part of what we are. And that's just going to be the future.
Yeah. I agree. Thanks, Jim. Will, I see your hand up. Go ahead, Will.
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to applaud Jim for his recognition of what he's seeing. Full confession, I'm an IT nerd, but part of what is going on within our profession, our industry, is that we are all interconnected. In the past, we would do waterfall. Planning would do planning things, design would do design things, construction would do what they wanted to do, and then maintenance had to figure out what in the world to do to keep the thing together. We're now recognizing, as Jim pointed out, that this is an ecosystem that has all these feedback loops back and forth and around between all these different pieces. And so you can't do pure design work and then be done with a project. You have to recognize all this interplay back and forth. And so we need the right data to travel with the information as it moves through the different steps of the project and then ultimately to the built asset. So again, Jim, I think you did a great job communicating that. And I would encourage all engineers to speak to your peers so that they can hear that. IT doesn't need to sit in a corner. At the same time, this is not all an IT thing. It's a we thing, not one or the other.
Thanks, Will. Katie, go ahead, Katie.
Hi. So I totally concur with what the previous speakers said. I think one of the things that gets overlooked here is data governance, which Oklahoma DOT is really making digital delivery work out. And then the second part of that is I think we're lacking just a basic education on data. We're going from a world where we managed information on paper, even if your paper was digital, if it was a PDF, we're moving away from information on paper. We're moving to a world of data, and managing and sharing data is just completely different from the way you share information that's on paper.
Yep.
Jim, you've touched some things that I think are very close to home with many of us, and I really appreciate your time and willingness to update us on your efforts. And I mean, I can't express any more appreciation. I think from myself and from the group, and if there's an opportunity that we can engage you further as you continue to complete that or make the connections with the pooled fund studies and others, in our discussions with BSI and other things to kind of move this forward more nationally. It seems like we've got some efforts with Brad and Tricia with ASHTO to continue that conversation as well. But I think we're excited to see what you've done kind of be leveraged and adopted at a national, if not international level.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks again.
Thanks, Jim.
All right, Roger, remind me where we're at. We're to
Well, I think now we're ready. We have one more presentation from Oklahoma about their work on their pool fund. And this one we were kind of setting up in two parts potentially they were going to give a bit of an overview of what they're doing and what they're trying to accomplish. And then we might follow up with a deeper dive at the next session, depending on how things come together and what the agenda ends up looking like for the March meeting. But yeah, that's what we talked with Michael, who's come on here to share with us, and with Katie about doing. So I see Michael's there. So Michael, you want to take over the presenter role and share your slides with us, and then we can have some discussion at the end of that.
Sure thing. Can everybody see my screen?
We can.
Yes.
Outstanding. Technology win for the day. All right. Thank you, Matt and Roger, and of course the committee members for the opportunity to speak. So we're going to dive right into what we are doing over here in Oklahoma and really start to focus in on those standards development. And we're going to sprinkle in a little bit of Star Wars themes. So buckle up. So if we're really going to defeat this dark side of paper-based workflows and disconnected data, we cannot fight alone. Our mission in Oklahoma, of course, most of us here know we secured the ADCMS grant. And I think this as a resource, we need to upgrade our fleet. The goal is written in the grant: accelerate the adoption of advanced technology across the entire life cycle, from design through construction to operations. And it's like a coalition. We aren't the only ones here in this fight. We're joining forces with the other states highlighted here in the first and second round. And just like the Alliance needs different ships to fly together, the grant requires us to maximize interoperability. We are building systems to talk to each other, boosting productivity and reducing project delays so we can stay on target. Well, that's kind of like our business case, or some might say the badge of honor, and it's the fuel for our engines. But why? This grant is what pays for the heavy lifting. We will talk about some of those things like we get into the meat of this presentation a little bit. We're going to talk about our CAD workspace rebuild, ISO 19650 architecture as it comes to our CDE, and allows us to move beyond simple 3D modeling into true interoperability, ensuring the data we create and design doesn't die when it hits construction, and it survives all the way to operations. Kind of a shout out to Trish. I'm sure she just smiled. And in the closing on this slide, I just wanted to say, so when you see Oklahoma lit up on this map, know that we're part of the national movement, and we are using the federal funds to build a system that is safer, faster, and finally standardized. So this is a little bit of timeline. I didn't want to bury you in timelines, but just want to kind of give you a little bit of insight. So this timeline represents our march toward digital delivery. We didn't just guess at the things we needed. We started in 2023 with a rigorous gap analysis. We interviewed staff across the enterprise, and we found out where the friction points were. We're currently executing our strategic plan. This is where we define the what digital delivery needs to do. And as we move into 2025, we then hit our implementation plan, and we're now actually executing on that strategy. Notice the red arrows at the bottom. We are specifically targeting project-wise. We identified a lot of gaps there. We wrote some requirements, now building out the architecture to support the ISO standards that we are going to discuss a little bit later, and what I was mentioning earlier. We all know this feeling. As the meme says, we altered the project scope. Pray I do not alter it further. In the past, adding additional steps to complete the task felt like it's a hole in our projects, or even a scope creep, which it is not. But to stop that, we are bringing order to the galaxy and understanding that these are just additional steps that we have to go through to complete that task in our ADCMS grant. So we're establishing strict change management, standardizing our processes and data, and we're establishing workforce development and training programs. Just like the empire runs on strict hierarchy and rules, our new system relies on defined standards so that we do not add additional steps. It's managed, tracked, and doesn't destroy the schedule. See my friends there at the bottom left corner? Why are they high-fiving? It's not just because they finished the job, it's because for the first time, we're speaking the same language. We often think technology solves problems, but communication is where the projects actually live and die. Phase 1, we are teaching our own divisions, Design Bridge, Right-of-Way, etc., to speak the same common digital language. Phase 2, which we're kind of entering now, and we entered it in we're like 2.5 right now. We extended that language to our consultants and contractors. And in phase 3, we're taking ownership of that and moving it into our strategic communications group. If we wait until the end of the project to agree on these terms, we're going to fail. We are prioritizing education and common vocabulary. We need to ensure that when we say asset, you know exactly what I mean before a single line is drawn. And then hopefully by the end of 2026, we'll be high-fiving again, because we aren't wasting time in translating the data, we're actually moving it. See the trooper in the bottom left corner? He's fit for duty, but the trooper is useless without those orders. These documents on the screen, these are our general orders. We cannot build a model ready for construction on just ad hoc decisions. We need digital delivery guidelines and modeling standards so everyone can model the same way, model management plans so we know where the data lives, and a responsibility assignment matrix so we know exactly who's responsible for what data element. Notice you see green cards and yellow cards here. I try to find a way to kind of show where we are on these tasks. If you highlight and you look at the yellow cards, like say digital delivery guidelines or say roadway modeling standards, we knew that we needed these things, but we had to spend a little more time specifically, like say in roadway modeling standards, instead of the whole modeling standards, to get that out and make sure it's correct. And of course, our digital delivery guidelines is yellow, required a little more reading and understanding through our internal and our external engagements. And of course, quality management, as we can probably imagine, that's going to take a little bit more time because the technology of where we are and how do we actually review a model. My friend over in the left corner, he's now drinking coffee because he knows the heavy lifting is being done by the system and not by manual labor. We're rebuilding the back end to make life easier. Rebuilding CAD workspace, so the tools they just work. IFC schema integrations, so exports are automatic. And ISO 19650 staff certification, so our people begin to speak the right language. We're doing the hard work on the ProjectWise data source now, so people can sit back, sip coffee later, knowing the data integrity is actually there. And you can see that there's some yellow cards here. For example, when we knew we needed some CAD workspace rebuild, what we didn't really know was we couldn't really just put a Band-Aid on it. And what we learned, we needed to add those additional steps, like it's better for us to completely rebuild this thing from the ground up, intentionally writing in item types, intentionally putting IFC pieces in there, intentionally writing those reports, just to make that data exchange or just reporting back on the data much, much easier. ProjectWise, man, what a beast. But what we learned through that process was, again, we couldn't just Band-Aid it. We couldn't just add a few folders, take some folders out, change some workflow processes. That thing was set up to deliver paper. And what we needed to do was, well, rebuild it. We'll get into that. Back to our coffee drinking friend on the left. He is more effective now because he is looking at uniformity. Because we established that common language in the back in the communication phase, we now can build a unified standard workspace. Whether you are in hydraulics or roadway, the environment is locked for consistency. This isn't just about making drawings look the same, it's about making the data behind them consistent. Kind of what Katie was saying before. Because we are uniform internally, we can export item types and IFC externally. We stop being the ragtag rebellion of the different file formats and become a unified force. As you can see, all the different pieces of the workspaces here, all these disciplines have kind of their own thing going. What we've done by completely rebuilding it from the ground up, we've unified that standard workspace, and now it is fully managed. We're actually in step 2 now. Now we're starting to expand that workspace and looking at different things. Just highlighting NIBS naming convention, one of the things that we did, we gone away from Mike's awesome level number 445 to standard naming conventions for those levels and those codes. So now the data is transportable across state lines. But right now, well, this slide is super technical, but I want to make something very clear. The trooper's still relaxed because of the process, not the software. Right now, as we speak, we're writing the architecture document that isn't just a list of IT settings. It's literally the rules of engagement for the next decade of ODOT projects. We're taking the ISO 19650 business processes and hard coding them into the environment. The philosophy that I'm trying to use here is if we, the owner, don't define our business requirements first, the best software in the world will not save us. So we aren't just installing ProjectWise, we are configuring it to solve 7 specific headaches. We are not putting a Band-Aid on our current environment, we are establishing a new environment strictly aligned to the ISO 19650 standard. To kind of go more in depth of that, a discovery, I'd like to say is the data swamp fix. First, we are fixing the where it is problem. Legacy systems force you to dig through, say, 160 plus folders, creating a data swamp. Now, we're configuring the attribute-based delivery. We are building the global save searches so you can find the file for what it is, not by memorizing where you found it last, or memorizing the complex folder path. We're strictly building role-based access control. We are done with managing granular permissions on thousands of folders. That leads to permission creep and security risks. Right now, we're mapping user lists to the ISO functions such as author, checker, etc. You get added to a list, the system instantly grants you to the exact folder or need to know bases that you need, or excuse me, the need to know access that you need. And trust, the gated workflow. We are scripting the gated workflow such as work in progress to shared. In the past, you never knew if a file was truly ready. Right now, we are building a system that locks the data. If you see the file in the shared state, you can trust it. The system guarantees it has passed a quality check. And what would it be if we weren't setting up technology if we didn't have constraints? One of those constraints, we are solving the Windows path limit. Deep folder structures cause the file corruption when they hit 260 characters. We're implementing a fax taxonomy. We are intentionally limiting folder depth to prevent those corruption errors from ever happening again. And then we started tackling, well, what about initiation? What does that look like? We are coding self-service automation with a third-party vendor. We know you hate waiting on IT tickets to just create a project folder. Right now, we are building the automation tool. The model manager fills out a web form and the system instantly builds the compliant ISO 19650 template with all permissions set, no wait times. And that gets us into digital twins readiness. We can probably argue on what a digital twin actually is, but in this case, we're ensuring machine readability. Deep folders are dumb. GIS systems can't read them. Right now, we are enforcing the naming convention as the primary key. This means downstream systems like asset management will be able to automatically scrape the spatial code from the file name and map the data without manual entry. So why is a trooper drinking coffee? Because we are doing this heavy architectural lifting now so that when the system does go live, data integrity is automatic. Master Yoda says, you must unlearn what you have learned. This is critical when we want to talk about the requirements. We are all looking for a version of the ISO 19650 standard in words that the United States understands, but it does not actually exist. You have to unlearn the idea that there is a single PDF that will solve this problem. There is a trap, and I've heard some say, well, just give me the 3D model. I need people to unlearn that. If we just treat this as a standard 3D model, we usually get a pretty 3D model. But that is not what ODOT needs to run a highway system for the next 50 years. We aren't just asking for geometry, we are asking for the data that fuels our operations moving forward. So when you see requirements, understand we are moving past just give me that 3D model and asking for data for lifecycle decisions. And finally, distracted by the words you are, flow the data it must. Whether you call it a task team or a roadway squad, the deadline doesn't care. The data has to move. Big thanks to the stakeholder group for this opportunity. Scan the QR code to get in touch with Katie and I. We are here to help you through this transition. May the source of truth be with you. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. I can definitely appreciate a good Star Wars tie-in, despite my younger nieces saying it has no relevance anymore. So I'm not sure that's true. Maybe I'm just getting older.
Yeah, the force was with you there.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I tried to channel it.
Give any opportunity. Is there any questions for any?
Maybe I could say what we had in mind a little bit, Matt, and then people are thinking if they have any questions. But Michael and I started talking a few weeks ago, I guess, about the idea of doing something with the stakeholder group around this, and then we were thinking that this could potentially be a workshopping topic or something to go a little bit deeper on this idea of how could we share the common implementation and utilization of ISO 19650, because it seems to lie it lies at the center of what Oklahoma is trying to do, and we think there's application for other DOTs, and so if this standard could be leveraged and used, this could be something we could collaborate on. We know there's a few other DOTs out there interested in using and or already using ISO 19650 in some way. So we thought we could maybe invite them to share if we do take this topic on at the next workshop or at a future one. And I guess myself, I think we're doing a lot, as we've seen, with information exchange around IFC. But in order for that to really work at the high level, we need process management standardization, or we can benefit from process management standardization as well. And so that would help us utilize all that other good work that's going on even more thoroughly, I think, if and when we can foster that. Not that we have to do it all through the DDSG, but maybe this is a way to draw more attention to it if we go on from here with some more work in a future event. If there's interest, and this is something we can still figure out, but that was some of the thinking between this shorter share today and then potentially more in the future on some of those things that need to be done are being done in the grant. And I don't know if you want to say anything, Michael, in addition, but yeah.
No, I appreciate it. where we were going with the standard and trying to align it, some of the things that we noticed was that is what I kind of keyed in there at the end. The terms don't necessarily cross over to United States, and trying to sift through that. And like when we were going through the certification process and our team, there was a lot of questions. And if anyone's gotten into it, what's an appointed party? What's the lead appointed party, and so on and so forth? What does that actually mean in U.S. terms? Once we kind of figured that out, things did start to come together. And I would say once actually understanding the standard and applying it to something that's real, such as a common or connected data environment, it means a lot more. Katie?
Yeah, so totally agree with all of that. And I was just going to say that, the great thing about ISO 19650 is it is a well-established BIM process. So we don't have to recreate the wheel, right? We can just take what's already been tried and done, and we can just apply it to our own environment. It did get a little bit complicated in the ISO 19650 training, just because the words were very European and didn't quite exactly translate to the words we use on a daily basis within our DOT to describe the different roles. But if we can create a crosswalk for that, it becomes a lot more accessible and understandable. How do we create, share, and manage this data?
I would add part of the process of adapting ISO 19650 for in-country use is developing a forward and an annex that identify the places where the language needs to be modified or even the processes need to be modified. And that is something we haven't done that here in the US. I know we've done some work on it with Penn State and other people, and we're maybe looking to advance that further. So this could also be a way to help with that language issue, Katie, and figure out a way to do it at a common national level.
Katie and Michael, who was the ISO 19650 training with?
That was a company called Operum Academy.
Okay.
And that one's based in the UK. And I don't think we have any US based training.
And the fellow from Operam, Paul Shilcock, I think Michael and I were talking with him about potentially giving some kind of abbreviated version of that if we did further with this, that, wouldn't be a full training, but could maybe highlight some of those things. He's very knowledgeable. He was one of the authors of the standards. So yeah, there was a comment that Arizona is moving forward. So I think there could be some real opportunity to bring states together around doing this in a common way. New Mexico, great. I think I've heard Caltrans is doing something with it. I know I don't think Devin's here today, but
I would
and I'm
love
sure
for all
there's
of us
states
to.
on.
Oh, go ahead. I think it'd be great for us to all get together and discuss the ways we can implement this.
Yeah, even, I mean, at a basic level too, if we don't have the right terminology or how the US does business, is being able to find some resources for some sort of a ISO 19650 primer or 101 that is based on our terminology and how we do business. Roger, who does like if there's a like a you had mentioned, I guess like an annex or something that, for US that we haven't done, what's the mechanism to look into something like that?
Well, the mechanism is that each country who's a member of ISO, which the United States is through the American National Standards Institute, establishes mirror committees that mirror the ISO committee at the national level. And in the US, the ANSI, the organization that holds the chairmanship for Technical Committee 59, Subcommittee 13, which 19650 is part of, is ASHRAE, which is the Association of Heating and Refrigerating Air Conditioning Engineers, which may not, be the strongest connection to transportation. And it hasn't been real active here in the US, but we have recently started working with them, and Nibs has taken over being the chair for that committee, my colleague Jay Klein, and we've worked with the drafting of Ford and Annex, working with Penn State. So we're looking to move this stuff forward, and we want to get more involvement, get that committee stood up and get more involvement from the transportation sector in that mirror committee. It's also the committee that comments on, and votes on all the IFC and IDS and IDM. Every standard that we use extensively here is under that committee. So I think there's some real opportunity for us to build engagement and work on a Ford and Annex collectively that could be used here and support transportation in particular.
This may be a good item for us to maybe bring up with the members on having a working group participate specifically to target that activity and to develop, those kind of documents that we could move forward through the appropriate channels to have that kind of US voice part of the international conversation. If there are, members and state agencies that, are on the DDSG as members, then we could look to them to, express their interest or be included in those items.
Yeah, that would be great. And we could try to collect the states that are working on this towards that as well. See, got Arizona and New Mexico identified in the chat.
Yeah. Anybody else aware of other agency efforts in this area or interest? You want to drop it in the chat? It'd be helpful for us.
I think I saw there was New Mexico, Arizona, and then I think we talked about Pennsylvania and California.
Tricia says include Minnesota. Okay. Yeah, Roger, let's figure out a way that maybe we can get some activity in this area. It seems like it's an urgent kind of baseline item for US in the international sphere as a lot of other activities are moving forward.
Right. Yeah, good. That sounds good. Yeah, I thought when I heard about what Oklahoma was doing, it seemed like a good way to build on it. So,
Yeah, and we can look at as we work towards the March meeting too and getting our agenda locked down. about an expansion either at that meeting from Oklahoma or the next virtual one as time allows. But let's keep that on our radar for the next meeting, like you had mentioned already.
Okay. Let's see, I'm typing away on the mural, but let me maybe, well, I guess we can actually, I think we're basically into wrap up mode. Matt, I don't know if we want to look at the draft agenda for March and or the schedule of events. I could put them up on the mural and that way people could also add comments if they wanted to. So shall I put the mural up with that on it, you think?
Yeah, I think that's the best approach. So that, again, just to reiterate, the mural is going to be open and accessible. So, and we are hoping to use that to leverage to kind of crowdsource, the schedules of other activities, bigger conferences. For example, ASHTO Committee on Design, ASHTO Committee on Construction, etc. Um, to help us with scheduling. There's also, Roger, I think we do have with regards to the slide that mentions the upcoming GIST meeting, if there are items of interest from the community that we tackle, yeah, Roger's got it on the screen right now. This meeting number 3 that we have planned in March. And again, if you want details for any of the meetings and information that we have, they're posted on the DDSG hub, which I've posted again the link in the chat to get you there, or you can just search DDSG hub and it'll get you there as well. But in the mural, if there are things that are particular interests, we are, getting our legs underneath us here with the group and getting a cadence for our meetings and trying to establish, working items and, priorities. But here's a good mechanism for us to gain that valuable feedback from everybody, including the DDSG members themselves. We do have kind of a tentative high level agenda for the next meeting that we're trying to build out. As I mentioned previously, we expect to have some recurring items because of the national prominence of the activity, particularly the pooled funds studies, and all the deliverables and activities that they're taking on, both for bridges and for the larger BIM for infrastructure, which is pretty much everything else except the bridges and structures. And those are a lot of items in themselves, as well as the ADCMS grants. Other relevant efforts, there are plenty of National Cooperative Highway Research Program, or NCHRP, national research being done that tie into digital delivery that I think we should look to have updates on the progress of some of those meetings as we're allowed to hear those, because I know that sometimes we have to wait until the project is completed and the oversight panel for the individual study has approved the deliverables for publication. But oftentimes we're also allowed to get information or updates on where they're at with that research, or if they're at a point where they're engaging with the larger community to get feedback on draft deliverables. Oftentimes we're provided that permission, if you will, or ability to do that. And as well as other efforts that you might be aware of, either through university. Many state agencies have research efforts with their universities within their state that are related to digital delivery. So we can certainly entertain those kind of updates as well as it applies to digital delivery and its relevance, or if they're, seeking feedback from the community on some of the things that they're delivering, whether it's, guidance documents or other things. That certainly is another area that we can have as part of our agenda as well. A few people are signing out. I appreciate them being able to participate. We are a little bit ahead of schedule, but yeah, and again, within the mural that Roger's showing, if you've got any of those events, like I said, we're trying to leverage you to help crowdsource some of these items for our future scheduling. Our next meeting in March will be the hybrid on-site with virtual component. The meeting after that will be all virtual again, similar to this one. We have not yet established dates for those meetings yet. The next one after that, again, will be another hybrid in person. We've had some discussion of potentially leveraging iHeap again, event that, unlike last year, which was in October, which created some issues because of the budget negotiations, is later in the year at the beginning of December. And Jacob and Texas DOT are actively involved in leading that effort in Austin, Texas. If we end up targeting that one for our next in-person meeting, then that's going to put us somewhere in late July for another all virtual meeting after March to try and kind of accommodate schedules and make sure we've got a regular cadence. But we're going to continue to communicate that with the members as well and get that information out to everybody on the DDSG hub. Our intent is to get those schedules out and locked in dates and venues much earlier, so that people can plan and have time to plan and get the appropriate approvals for travel.
Yeah, I think BIM Week was the other event that got some expressions of support as a potential place for, as have other AASHTO committee meetings. So I guess those are things we're going to be working on sorting out. So if anybody has any thoughts or comments, you can drop them in the mural over here on the right. That'd be great.
Yeah. And we are a little bit ahead of schedule, which is okay. I think we all prefer to end earlier than run late. Just a reminder again, we have our next session for the meeting two, third and final session is going to be on Wednesday. If you have not already registered for that event, you can go to the DDSG hub again through the website that I posted and register for that one. We will have our third event and we will have both pooled fund studies provide some discussion topics there and another ADCMS update from Delaware DOT.
Yes.
There. Yeah.
Yeah, Delaware DOT.
And so we look forward to your continued engagement and participation on Wednesday.
Yeah.
I think we have a question from James. Go ahead, James.
Or he's got his hand raised. If you want to come on and unmute yourself if you got a question or put it in the chat. James is one of the attendees. We see your hand up anyways, unless that's an accident.
Well, they have the option to unmute themselves if they so choose. Accident. Okay.
All right, thank you.
One thing I will challenge everybody to do before they sign off is do go to the mural and leave a comment on the general meeting comments for today. Maybe if it's just something as simple as, you liked the format, you liked how things were set up, things to be improved, really anything. Even just thanks for the meeting. It's good to fill these out. It's nice to get feedback from everybody. So yes, once again, please try and get on the mural, and I really appreciate it.
No. Thanks again on behalf of myself and the Digital Delivery Stakeholder Group, and we will see you again Wednesday afternoon.
Yeah,
Take
thanks
care.
everybody. Thanks, presenters. Appreciate your sharing. Yeah, great. Thanks, Matt.
And be safe shoveling snow if that's where you're going.
Yes. Thanks. All right, Brackley, I think we're all set for today.
Yep, I will close the webinar out.
All right. And yeah, we'll follow up to get ready for Wednesday, but good for today.
Yep.
So thank you.
Yep. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye all.